Methods of irrigation. Surface irrigation. Subsurface irrigation. Sprinkler or overhead irrigation. Drip irrigation. Surface irrigation. Water is applied directly to the soil surface and allowed to spread by gravity. Surface irrigation is suitable for orchards, vineyards, and rice fields. Types of surface irrigation: flood irrigation, furrow irrigation, basin irrigation. In flood irrigation, the entire field is covered with a continuous sheet of water. Water from a source such as a river is diverted into smaller channels called canals. Water enters the field from the canals through small gates called sluices. Advantages of flood irrigation. It's cheap to establish and maintain. Less technology is required. Requires little skills to use. Disadvantages of flood irrigation. Water is unevenly distributed to plants. There is wastage of water. Possible only in flat areas, thus cannot be practiced in slopy areas. It requires large amounts of water, thus cannot be practiced in areas with water scarcity. Canals get blocked with soil. It leads to increased incidence of waterborne diseases such as malaria and bilharzia. Furrow irrigation. Water is directed down furrows or channels between crop rows. Water from canals enters the field through sluice gates into furrows. Crops grow on a ridge with water in the furrows getting to the roots through capillarity. Clay soil is best for this system. This method is often used for row crops like maize, beans, and cotton. Advantages of furrow irrigation. It's cheap to establish and maintain. Requires little skills to use. Reduces fungal diseases that occur when irrigation water touches the plants. Disadvantages of furrow irrigation. Loss of water through evaporation and ground seepage. Soil erosion when furrows are not maintained. Weeds grow in the furrows. Basin irrigation. Water is applied to a basin or leveled area enclosed by soil walls called dikes. Crops are grown in a flooded depression called a basin. Water is retained in the banks by raised soil walls called dikes or levees. Water from canals enters the field through sluice gates into the basins. Clay soils is most suitable for basin irrigation method. Advantages of basin irrigation. It's cheap to establish and maintain. It suffocates weeds, thus reduce weeding costs. Disadvantages of basin irrigation. It leads to accumulation of a lot of salt in the soil. Requires a lot of water. It must be carried out on soils with a high water holding capacity. Can lead to waterlogging and soil erosion if not managed properly. It leads to increased incidence of waterborne diseases such as malaria and bilharzia. It is expensive to construct basins if the land is not naturally flat. Subsurface irrigation. Subsurface irrigation involves applying water to crop roots below the soil surface. Perforated underground pipes allow water to pass out through tiny holes and wet the soil around the root zones of the crops. It's most suitable for soils with high capillarity and high water holding capacity such as clay soil. Advantages of subsurface irrigation. No water wastage due to reduced evaporation and surface runoff. Water is directly available to plant roots, thus economizes water. Can be practiced on both flat areas and areas with slopes. It reduces the incidences of fungal diseases. Soil erosion is reduced due to slow dripping water. Less labor is required due to no changing of water pipes or constructing dikes. Minimizes possible theft of pipes. Disadvantages of subsurface irrigation. It's expensive when buying and laying the pipes. Pipes can be broken during weeding or land preparation. Nozzles can get blocked and this makes irrigation inefficient. It requires the use of clean water to avoid blocking irrigation pipes. Overhead irrigation or sprinkler irrigation. Overhead irrigation involves applying or spraying water to crops from above. This can be done using various types of sprinklers or watering cans. Fixed sprinklers are installed in a fixed position and irrigate a specific area. Rotating sprinklers rotate to cover a larger area. Rolling or traveling sprinklers move across the field on wheels or trucks. Advantages of sprinkler irrigation. Water is well distributed over the required area. Less water wastage than in flood irrigation. Can be practiced on sloppy ground without erosion. Foliar fertilizers can be applied together with irrigation water, thus reducing labor costs. Sprinkler systems can easily be moved from one place to another. Disadvantages of sprinkler irrigation. It's expensive to install pipes, pumps and sprinklers. Requires water under high pressure, thus need for pumps. Requires clean water. Encourages fungal diseases due to water accumulation on leaves. It causes soil erosion. Requires wind breaks to prevent wind from misdirecting water. Maintenance requires skills and is also expensive. Pipes can easily be damaged during farm operations. Water loss due to wind drift and evaporation. Drip irrigation or trickle irrigation. This is a method that involves laying plastic pipes with perforations on the ground surface along rows of crops. Water slowly drips out of the pipes to wet the crop around the base. Drip irrigation can also involve putting water in a bottle, then placing the open bottle at the base of the plant. Advantages of drip irrigation. Little amount of water is required compared to all other irrigation. Can be practiced on sloppy ground. Water does not cause erosion because it comes out in small amounts. Fungal diseases are reduced because water does not accumulate on leaves. Does not encourage weeds to grow between the rows. Water under low pressure can be used. Disadvantages of drip irrigation. Higher cost of buying irrigation pipes. Requires regular maintenance to prevent clogging of emitters. It's expensive to buy bottles for a big farm. Requires clean water. Tiresome as it requires a lot of labor to add water into the bottles. When choosing the irrigation method. The choice of irrigation method depends on various factors, including the type of crops, types of soil, water availability, slope or topography of the area, capital availability.